Hey there, welcome to episode 9 of the FFS Talk audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo. Solo episode once again, although this one would have been great, or will be great topic in the future, to have some guest input, guests plural perhaps. It is late in the evening of the 24th of January 2024. That's a lot of 24s. Episode 9 already, getting in there, almost the double digits. And today, I would say we, but let's be honest, I am editorializing somewhat. This is not intended to be overly paranoid. It's just something to think about. It may come out as paranoid, but it is merely thinking out loud about ceding everything to technology. Now, I am an engineer. I have been for a long time. A lot of things I look at through a technology lens, and I think that's becoming more and more apparent. In fact, I think there is a presumption too often that technology is the thing. You will see this whenever people consider invention or innovation. It's usually in the context of the next big thing in technology. If it's not technology, it must be boring. I guess people don't eat or drink or go outside and enjoy the sun. Not everything is technology, but for the purposes of this episode, let us consider when that does happen, when we view everything as handed over to technology or a result of technology or dependent on technology. I will read my summary since it does spell this out pretty well. Since the discovery of fire and the invention of tools from stone and or the bones of other animals, we have been on a quest to make our lives easier and more efficient. Are we cheering on the move to replacing our own selves? Yeah, it was maybe I stepped on that a little bit. So basically, are we overly excited at the prospect of replacing humans at every turn? Certainly 2024, later in 2020, well, actually throughout 2023, there was a lot of layoff action in the tech sector. There may be other layoffs. I know if you happen to attend the CES 2024 show here in lovely Las Vegas, although it was very cold during that week, you may have seen some robots, one or two, maybe a couple of AI things. The notion of replacing everyone, whether you are a bartender or a barista, or maybe you want to mop your floor, no, have the robot do it. Maybe you want to interact with humans. No, let the rabbit AI thing interact with people for you, and all you have to do is talk to it, and it will do the work. The list goes on. There was no shortage of automated farming equipment, delivery devices, flying, driving, probably swimming. That was the theme. The theme of CES, by the way, switches with the wind. So next year could be stone tools, speaking of. So let's get on to the links. By the way, I keep talking about this every week on all of my programs, slowly but surely, especially now that CES is done and we can move on to the serious business at hand. There will be a YouTube channel, and we'll post the podcast audio program episodes there, and then maybe some other stuff. There has been a Discord, which I will start putting links to, and I will backlink, so I will update all of the previous episodes in the current era, the episode format, episode number, 4 digits, and then the previous episodes of FFS Talk, and also my other program, the Quaggling Sand, are both older shows that I've rebooted recently. So there are previous episodes formatted differently and but in the same place. So we'll move or copy all of those so they're available on YouTube. Google Podcasts are going away, switching to YouTube Music or something. So ideally, though, there is a FFS Talk domain, which I've had forever. That's how domains go. If you are a project person, you buy a domain and then you think about it for a few years and you pay rent, and there it goes. But FFS Talk will spring to life, powered by Innovate for Vegas Foundation software tools. So on with the show. The link section, of course, begins with my shameless self-promotion. Buy Dan a coffee if you want. No pressure. Buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo, DANHUGO. The only reason I have this on here at the top is a starting point for people finding my shows, my audio programs, and then eventually other projects. There are other projects listed there. So if you're looking for any of my, at this time, 4 weekly audio programs, there are some links to GitHub and other things, and there are some spaces for more. And so I use that as a sort of a starting point, a landing page. It's an easy thing to link to. People do know what the Buy Me a Coffee site is about. Do you have to buy me a coffee? No. If you would like to, I will purchase coffee with any monies that flow in through there. I have done so. The previous occasions when people have bought me a coffee, literally, I have used the funds to purchase coffee beans. The most recent purchase was some Lavazza espresso beans. As well, my Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/Dan Hugo profile page. And as I say every week, I need to figure out what to do with that. Hopefully, sometime in the near term, once I start deploying the native publishing tools, I can put these 2 resources to better use than I have been. I have one head holding up many hats. Not an excuse, but certainly a reason. The rest of the links, I have linked to the Wikipedia entry for The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. It was a reasonable movie, if you've seen it. The Eloi and the Morlocks. If you listen to the title of today's episode, Ceding Everything to Technology, the time machine flies right past that and moves to the next, after the apocalypse, I guess, when the Eloi have forgotten how anything functions, and the Morlocks take advantage of that by feeding them and keeping them comfortable, and then occasionally taking some payback. So good movie, good book, however you'd like to consume that. Maybe you still read, hopefully. I have a Doonesbury comic strip. There were a few. I actually worked in the Newton group at Apple. So I was a Newton fan at first. I experienced firsthand how flaky the handwriting recognition and the system in general were. Although I will say, and in fact, I have not used this Rapid device, but I have to say the Newton did have an interesting notion of a continuous scroll that you could write notes on and put things on and so on. It was basically just a never-ending news feed that you would write on, and you would write a line like an underscore as if you were physically dividing from the previous note to the next note. And it had that as a separator and all that. So it's an interesting idea, a way of interfacing that sort of unifies. I want to write down a name and a phone number. Let me tap on the phone number and it'll pull up the all that stuff. It was very interesting. But the Newton handwriting recognizer itself was awful. And I've included the Doonesbury comic strip, one of several, in the Computer History Museum. It was abysmal. The reason that Palm originally took off was the Graffiti app. The Graffiti app was actually running on the Newton. I had it on my Newton MessagePad 100. And we certainly played with it at Apple on the MessagePad 120 and the MessagePad 2000, was it? Or the other one that I was working on. I should know the name. It's been a while. But the nice thing was Graffiti actually worked. All you had to do was adjust the way that you made letters so they were more explicitly different. And so you had to do for the computer so that it could do for you. So you were handing over a little bit of your handwriting autonomy for the purposes of productivity, I guess. And so Doonesbury made fun of that frequently. There's the one I've linked to is the test sentence. There were some other ones that were also funny, so check those out. Not a plug, just it was contemporaneous humor that may even be apropos today. You could say the Newton would hallucinate a little bit. The recognizer was not AI in the sense that we are all experiencing that today, but it was an algorithm that tried to figure out what you were writing. And sometimes it got it right. First humans made use of tools, stone tools, or I think it was 2.5 million years ago. I was going to say billion, but not that long. 2.5 million years ago, humans have only been here for the last 5 seconds of the Earth's year, if you have ever seen Carl Sagan talk about that. So 2.5 million years ago, give or take. And then I was surprised to find that human use of bone tools, and this is on Wikipedia, so the other one was on human origins, .si, which it's not in front of me. I don't remember what that was. Let me pull that up. So human origins.si. I was surprised to learn that human use of bone tools of animal, like the jawbone of an ass, for example, if you're a reader of some literature, you also may be surprised by that the use of bone tools came after, allegedly. So, the Smithsonian, SI, Smithsonian Institute. So the National Museum of Natural History, I was almost going to switch those words around, suggests that 2.5 million years ago, stone tools were in use, and then 1.5 million years ago or so, give or take, who knows, whenever the pencil was invented, they could start writing this stuff down. So 1.5 million years ago, bone tools. 2.5 million years ago, stone tools. The tool was exactly that, and it was to make life easier, make humans and their intellect more efficient. And that's something to think about for this episode and in general. What does it mean when something becomes more than a tool and it doesn't need you? I've linked to Ethical AI article, starting point. You should read up on this topic in general. Ethical AI is going to be a hot topic. It certainly has gotten people fired over the last year or two or more. But how you use AI, and perhaps more importantly, how others use AI on you or build their AI from you, will be important things to think about. The example I always give is if you go to a doctor or a professional, a person that normally has compulsory education requirements as part of their job or their presumed expert level occupation or focus, you can see a degree and you say, they went to Harvard Medical School, and let us forget the drama of Harvard. I could insert a humorous bit about plagiarism, but I will not. So they went to Harvard. Okay, I think I know something about Harvard Medical School, but you really don't. You just assume that the name means they did a certain thing and they got a certain result, and now here they are, and they're going to tell you how to continue living or whatever. So then the question is, okay, I can actually go and look up. They really did go to that school. I really don't know what they teach there, but I can do some research and find out what the curriculum is like for a medical school student at Harvard, and so on and so on. With your AI overlords taking over slowly but surely, can you have any idea on what your AI doctor has been trained? Whether it's hallucinating when it gives you advice? Is it training on you to give someone else advice, vice versa, and so on? So these are going to be questions to ask in all areas of focus. So let us look back, as I am wont to do. Have you ever written a letter on paper with a pen and paper and mailed it through your local postal service to a friend, a relative, colleague, potential employer? Have you? Have you ever placed a telephone call recently with it? Not ever. Recently with a phone number that you had memorized? Have you ever, I'm not going to say ever, operated a motor vehicle with a manual or standard transmission? Do you even know what that is? I don't mean to be condescending. Real questions. Have you prepared food over an open flame or similar? If you've been counting. If you've been camping, that counts. I have, so that counts. Have you, and I've done all these things, by the way. Have you walked to a nearby destination rather than driving a motor vehicle? Bicycle would count, but really we're looking for the old ways. So walking, just like writing a letter. Did you use a quill? Did you dunk your quill in some ink? Were you writing it on a scroll with some candlelight? Maybe. Okay, that would still count. So I'm not being a stickler here, but just something to think about. And by the way, the bicycle is a thing. Steve Jobs was was fond of making this reference that a bicycle is a huge lever that makes humans ridiculously efficient in biolocomotion, so that's why I'm being particular about that one. Have you visited a library or otherwise researched a topic proactively yourself? That is, you didn't know something and you had to leave the comfort of your gaming chair or phone, and you went and tried to learn something new by reading actual books or by finding actual information, or who knows, even speaking to someone else who knows more about the topic than you did. Technology of tools is something like 2.5 million years old, like I said. Humans are not the only ones who use them, but certainly we have made some strides. Think about it. When did you cede some activity completely to technology, and would you ever go back? Could you ever go back? Could you give up your microwave oven? Could you give up your internet access? I probably could not for both of those, actually. But could you give up email? That would be tricky. Could you give up social media? Absolutely. Done that for the most part. So some of these things on this list, and this is a partial list, some of these things are interesting to think about, because when the internet goes down, when the phone goes down, are you able to remember an important phone number that is not 911? And forget about 911. But if you do you remember 911 to call for an emergency? But anyone else? Can you call your parents? Can you call your kids? Can you call your friends? Must you have your phone number? Have you ever seen someone announce that they lost their phone, and so they ask their friends, and they're sending this out on social media, so it's a sort of a disconnect. But lost my phone. Send me your contacts. That's strange. That you'd hope that they would have backed those up, but it is a callback to maybe a younger time for those of us who are not young, when you used to actually have some phone numbers in your head that you could dial at a payphone. Do you know what that is? Or just in case you needed to, you could actually dial a number that you knew because you dialed it frequently, perhaps, or because it was an important phone number that you would need now and then. When I was in high school, we were in a cave. No, I'm just kidding. When I was in high school, I had a friend who had the public transit phone number for the Phoenix bus system. At the time, it was like something TICO, T-I-C-O. So he said, "Oh yeah, you just dial the 602 something 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 TICO, T-I-C-O." So easy to remember phone numbers with the characters associated with the name. I'm sorry, with the digit. So you could make words, which I have done before. When we had the Bay Area Mobile Food Vendors Association, MFVA, I actually was able to secure MFVA as the 4 digits. So that sometimes comes in handy if you can get them, if people even use phone numbers anymore, but that's gone by the wayside until it needs to come back. So could you go back? Something to think about. And that's the purpose of this whole episode, is we'll get to that at the end. So first, let's look at leverage versus automation. Like I said, Steve Jobs would talk about how humans upright on 2 legs, 2 feet, bipedal, are drastically inefficient. They're not fast. They only have the 2 legs, the 2 feet. So if they are walking, they're only making 1 step. 1 foot is off the ground. The other one is on the ground. You look at quadrupeds, horses, for example. They're moving. They're moving quite quickly. Cheetahs, even faster for shorter periods of time. And so yeah, if you have multiple legs, if you're a multi-leg insect, you can zoom. And that's not even talking about wings. So then you introduce the bicycle. So that's some leverage, right? Now you're turning a mechanical advantage of the gear system, the sort of like a pulley. You're applying torque multiplication. You can also coast. So while you are pedaling, while you are pushing down with 1 foot and then the next foot and then the next foot, and rotating the main sprocket, you are driving the wheel with a particular gear ratio. So you're multiplying that torque. And then when you stop pedaling, you can still keep moving. So you're not essentially moving only with feet on and off the ground, right? So your biolocomotion energies and forces are being applied to a system that converts that to more efficient motion. And so that you are leveraging your biolocomotion against mechanical machinery and getting a more efficient result. And so, as Steve Jobs would point out with glee, the bicycle makes a human orders of magnitude more efficient than any animal. And I think that's been shown to be mostly true. And of course, he would then liken the Macintosh or Apple computer to the bicycle of the mind, right? So an interesting presentation. So that's leverage. Now let's look at automation in the same device class, I guess. Say you have a motorcycle, or nowadays like an e-bike. You are saying, okay, I have the machine and I can use biolocomotion to drive it to multiply the torque, and I can get massive gains in efficiency and get on my way, get to school or work or whatever. Oh, now I have a motorcycle. I no longer have to pedal. I'm going to use internal combustion. I'm going to use chemical energy and some chemistry gas laws, and I'm going to turn this gasoline or some other liquid fuel, or maybe whatever you got going on, into rotating motion. And so the action on a crankshaft or in a single two-stroke single cylinder engine, maybe not so complicated, but I can drive the sprocket, the main sprocket, drive the chain, drive the shaft, whatever it is, to the drive wheel, and I now don't have to pedal myself. There's a more efficient version. So I've automated the process of turning that wheel with a machine that is more efficient to drive the other machine that I don't have to drive anymore. So the chain, or whatever the drive to the final drive wheel is. So I've automated the bicycle with an engine, or now more likely, not more likely, but more common relative to 10 years ago, an electronic bike. So a battery and a motor, and the motor is turning the sprocket or direct drive on the shaft, or however it's working. So we are automating the drive of the bicycle. We don't have to get tired. We don't have to worry. As long as we're charged up, we're good. Let's imagine rotary dialing. If you have any idea what that is, good for you. Not a lot of people know this. Rotary dialing would literally interrupt the connection. So you pick up the phone handset, if you even know what that is, and you would hear the dial tone, and there would be an off-hook voltage on the wires. And then you would dial. If you dial the 1, you'd hear a click. And if you dial the 0, you'd hear a 0. You would hear click, 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 click. You'd hear 10 of them. So every time there was a click, it was dropping that voltage. I think it was basically shorting. But I think it was shorting, yeah. Just like hanging up the handset. Because, and if you've ever seen in old movies, someone will pick up a handset and then they'll tap in the cradle where the handset would go. There was two little, call them buttons. There were two points that would basically hit a lever to short the lines. So when you're on hook or when you're dialing, you're basically doing the same thing. So when they pick up the handset, tick, 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 tap it a couple times and try to get some sort of reaction, right? So you're basically trying to wake up the phone, whatever that is. But you could also dial a phone, and I believe this happened in war games. The phone, he was sequestered away in a medical exam room of some sort, and he was able to gain access to a phone somewhere, but it had a lock on it. He was not in the exam room at that time. Matthew Broderick's character, and I don't remember his name. So he was able to dial the phone because if you pick up the handset, even though the keypad was blocked, he could dial by tapping on the handset cradle buttons, the little lever points. Now, the fun part is this was a wired phone on an analog phone system, and this should work on a digital, plain old telephony services infrastructure. Even though a dial phone, which uses dual tone multi-frequency, was in use, right? That's the phone that was locked, I think. The phone company still supports this very old legacy dialing scheme because who knows, you might have a rotary phone you want to use. So the leverage came from converting a mechanical system of line shorting and slow dialing to dual tone multi-frequency. So now you have a grid of buttons that are making these tones. You could create the tones in a variety of ways. Now the keypad didn't have to be a mechanical system, although if you've ever taken apart an old mechanical DTMF keypad, they're really interesting. A lot of cool stuff going on there. You could now have phone dialers that didn't even have keypads on them. You could more easily, more cheaply implement auto dialers. You could start storing away phone numbers. You could type phone numbers into a card, business card, or a contact application and dial your phone. You could dial a modem using dial tones, right? Dialing tones. The dial tone is the off hook. I think it's 100 volt. No, 100 volt is ring, 25 volts, I think it was. So you gained a lot of use of this communication device by moving to DTMF from the rotary dialing, and you could start automating. So you could get the leverage of easier to use, quicker to dial. You could make smaller devices. You could make flatter devices. They didn't have to have the big giant rotating disc. And then you started getting automation where your phone could now be dialed by something else. Not that this wasn't true before, but so much easier to dial with automation, right? I don't know if I've mentioned my beeper program. I'll have to do that sometime. Automating, leaving phone numbers on pagers, digital pagers, before caller ID. Good times. So now you can connect to anyone, anywhere, anytime with your brand spanking new shiny digital phones that don't even need wires. So we've moved so far beyond whether you have a rotary or DTMF phone keypad to dial with, right? You can now dial internationally, globally, possibly out into space with a device that needs no wires and can transmit data at faster than the speed of thinking. And then you don't return phone calls. And you may or may not return a text or an email or some other communication methodology. So we've leveraged into a much more usable device, and we've automated ourselves into a device we don't want to deal with, or maybe we just don't for whatever reason. So these are only two examples. There are many. The difference between doing something more efficiently, that's a tool, and having it done for you with zero personal efficacy, that's when the tool does you, is the question. What are you actually getting to when you are no longer using the tool, but it is using you? And I'm channeling some Yakov Smirnoff there, I guess. And if you don't know who he is, you're missed out. So the complete handover of our day-to-day to technology is something that this is the main focus of today's episode. More questions, more thought experiments for you. Are you having some cloud-based tool write your emails for you? I know Google and Microsoft are making a big deal out of integration of their respective AI tools into some sort of Office suite, or Microsoft Office 365, I think it is, and Outlook, and Google with the Workspace and the Gmail. Are you writing your own emails, or are you letting autofill take over completely? Are you writing your own resume? Because I don't know if anybody's reading them anymore, but who knows what's going in there. Certainly tales of woe concerning attorneys filing legal briefs that have been generated by AI, and some silliness ensues, and then some trouble. Are you having AI create your marketing materials for you? Do you know what you're telling your potential customers or your current customers? Are you having AI interact with your customers? Are they running your business at this point? Are you chilling on the beach, as so much marketing used to do of the internets, while your business is run by automatons that you have no control over, no knowledge of? Are we selecting our own preferences? For how did you find this audio program, for example? Or have we handed over our selections, which this really kind of bothers me actually, to a recommendation engine of some sort that may have its own agenda? It would be a simple matter to have YouTube, for example, on their recommendation page, recommended by YouTube for you, or even more famously, the TikTok for you page, just keep feeding you things that it knows. I'm anthropomorphizing their algorithms. it knows that you're going to keep watching the same things. So it's going to keep feeding you more of those things, and it makes money. It's revenue generating based on you sitting there and watching what it feeds you. So you are no longer actually selecting things. You are being fed. And this goes back to the phone number thing. The other day, I was trying to remember, there was a particular, on YouTube, but it's essentially an audio only program like this one, the one you're listening to now. Couldn't for the life of me or you tell you what the name of it is. I had discovered it on the recommendation page. I listened to it. So of course I get recommendations of it all the time. And then I haven't seen it in a while. Well, I'm not even sure what to look for. And I have to be honest, that was one of the reasons I'm doing this episode right now, is because I'm starting to notice that because of my own laziness or misplaced confidence, perhaps, I don't know how certain things are appearing or disappearing. And I have to actually pay attention and note that, I actually am interested in what the content creator was doing. He would do deep dives on topics. Yeah, I don't know. Couldn't tell you. Luckily I can view my history, which I'm sure some algorithm has already done for me. But I can look at my viewing history for the past several months and I can try to figure out where it was. But the take home is I have handed over my selection of content to consume via YouTube. And the results are, I'm not quite sure with any degree of certainty what's happening there. So yeah, are you being selected for? And of course, YouTube wants to make money based on my viewership. So they want me to see videos and click on things. And so they're going to hand over content that encourages that. And the same is true of Facebook. The same is true of TikTok, all these platforms that monetize your attention, the attention economy, so they can feed you what you want, whether you like it or not. I don't know if you can hear that. More late night racing. Are you quite certain that what you are consuming has been created by someone, or has been created for you specifically by something? It would be, or it will be, it is now, but it would be a simple matter to create a version of some content. It could be an audio program such as this one. It could be written word. Eventually it could be complete, full motion, narrated videos, dialogue for you. You could be watching a variation on a theme that someone else might not see. They might see their own version of it. You would have no idea, really, when we get to that point. Yesterday, I was listening to, if you are not familiar with the Cat Williams saga going on now, I'll leave that for you to discover. But there have been some various content pieces created to comment on and so on. Literally heard so it sounded like a person. It sounded pretty realistic. But when I heard not a reference to Martin Lawrence, but somehow their AI that they're using created the narration phrase Laurence Olivier. And I heard that and I said, wait, what? They're referring to Martin Lawrence in a particular movie doing something. And they said, when Laurence Olivier did this, you're like, that's not right. And then I think it was the next day. If you're not familiar with Suge Knight, his name is his nickname, his nom de plume, nom de guerre. Maybe he's de plume also. Maybe he writes, probably. Rap, certainly. Checks, for sure. He spells his name Suge. So yet another piece of video, the phrase referred to him as Suge Knight. And I said, okay, that's another one. So computers are creating this content and nobody's checking it because why bother? Sitting on a beach. So you have to wonder who has created this content. Is it passing itself off as human? And I know YouTube in particular has policies that they will try to enforce. I believe that will be difficult, but it is something to think about when you are reading or watching or listening. I will guarantee you right now, I'm a human and I have composed the notes for this. I'm not reading a script that was written by AI. It's been written by me. All the bumps, but I've managed to pronounce Martin Lawrence and Suge Knight's names as they should be. So why should we worry? And here's the crux If you don't know how a system works, can you be sure that you know when it doesn't? And so, for example, if your phone stops working today, would you have any notion of what to do about that other than to go to a Genius store or Apple store to the Genius Bar or warranty service or whatever? There's no idea. The days of cracking open the Bakelite handset, or you could unscrew the handset and pull out the microphone and the earpiece and see, okay, there's some dust in there or whatever. You could take off the main body and you could clear out whatever's going on in there. Maybe there was a short. You could actually service, and let's not even begin down the path of bicycle maintenance, fixing your own car. If you're a Volkswagen fan, as I have been for some time, you could actually work on your own machinery, your own tools, the way you get to work or school, the levers that you are using to multiply your efficiency. Now, do you have any idea how anything you depend on functions? And would you know when it doesn't? Do you know whether your phone is making calls when you are not looking? It could be. Totally possible. Is it listening to you right now? Probably. You wouldn't even know. And if you did, then what? What do you do? I need my phone. I certainly can't get rid of it. I guess I'll put up with it. So you wouldn't even know how much damage is done if you don't know it's happening. Then what do? I have to go check. Did it log into things? Did it, and phone is an easy one because it's something that most people have, and don't take most to mean some statistical population measurement, but a lot of people that are listening to this right now, you probably have a phone, a digital mobile phone. You're not using the rotary analog device on Twisted Pair. So yeah, would you even know? And how long would it take? I've worked on cell phones. I worked at Palm, down, sleeves rolled up, down in the ditches of how cell phones work. Ditches, the bowels. How about that? Yeah, they can do a lot of things when you're not looking. And that's going to be more and more true of more and more things. Your robot kitchen might be making meals for people and you would have no idea. Hallucinations seem hilarious. They are similar to that Doonesbury comic. How did the Newton come up with this sentence? I wrote "Hello World" and it wrote something completely different. Autocorrect has caused enough trouble. If you've ever intended to send one message and you get something radically, possibly offensive or even embarrassing instead, and you've already sent it, whoops. Hallucinations are that on steroids, if you will. They can seem funny. The word is hilarious. But when you start trusting systems to interact with your customers or to make recommendations to you about anything, finances, trouble with your medical condition, let's ask the AI. Oh, it told me to hop up and down on one leg and drink water with a spoon in my, whatever. It's coming up with all these random things. And if people just do it, and you might think, that's crazy. Nobody's going to do that. But how many times have you heard these anecdotes about people following GPS directions and ending up in a lake or driving into a wall? You wouldn't necessarily know how they're making their decisions, quote unquote decisions. They don't have degrees. They don't have evidence of doing homework. They don't have a record of consultation. No other AI, like you can't ask for a second opinion and have the doctors confer because they're two AI machines. Are they going to do that? Probably not. Who knows? Would you know to ask? Would you know that they did? The interactions you have with these machines, the hallucinations may even drive you to make some odd decisions based on their hallucinatory advice. And then they may train on your responses and pass that along to someone else. And the hallucinations can take on many forms. And who knows whether you would even notice. If the system goes down, this is even more important. System goes down. I cannot use ChatGPT or some Microsoft variation in Bing or Bard or Llama, or the list is going to keep growing. System goes down and I need to send that email I need to write my resume. I need to do something. I need to accomplish something in the next 5 minutes, but the system is down and I don't remember how a pencil works. I don't remember how to dial a phone number. I don't remember. I've never done it. is that going to leave you out? Are you, and all of these things could be similar. The outcomes could be similar if the powers that be decide that this is very valuable and we're not going to let it go for free. So we're going to use the really good stuff, the AI that hallucinates less or has more skills or that is auditable. You got to pay. If you don't have the money, then you get the free version or the low cost or the ad-driven version. And it might say, be sure and take your medication and have a Coke and a smile, right? So you might be left out and you would have to have those skills or go without. So if you can't figure out how to accomplish the thing that AI was doing for you, you may be out of luck. So what next? What next? You'll hear a lot about jobs. AI is going to take the jobs. I saw something about 25%, or it could be more, who knows, 100%. So AI is coming for your job. And this has been true through the ages, the invention of these tools. I have to imagine that, early Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal humans, which were that's the time frame of the tools, the stone tools. I have to think that they were like, oh no, now my job of cracking open the skulls of our dinner, they don't need me anymore. Now they're going to let that, somebody can do it twice as fast with a rock. So you have to wonder if there's always, to paraphrase, if human intelligence finds a way. I'm paraphrasing a reasonably famous quote from a reasonably famous movie. So I think it's only a part emergency vehicle driven by a human, if you can hear that. The joy of being located so close to a busy street. Good for them. Someday ambulances will be automated. Medical emergency response, emergency medical technicians, EMTs, might be robots. You'll have no idea until you are, maybe it'll be too late. But yeah, so jobs being handed over to AI as robots catch up, as mechanical equivalents to ChatGPT become viable, not from Tesla, probably. There will be this concern that, manufacturing jobs, farming, agriculture, blue collar, white collar, they will all start to be automated completely, leaving you with more time to pursue your creative pursuits like podcasting. This may or may not be the main problem. So, because again, we'll figure something out. The economy, I know that's a hand wave and we hear it all the time, but yeah, it'll be an interesting time. The next 25 years, certainly the next 5. The full spectrum from innovation and invention to basic survival skills may be lost. If you don't know how to start a fire, you might be in trouble. If you depend on a robot or a lighter or, to do a lot of different things, you may be out of luck when the systems are down or when they're just not available, or you ask for your robot to build you a fire and it says, nah. So we've not only at that point given up on our own evolution moving forward, but we forgot about our own evolution that got us here. Now that's obviously an extreme statement. If you don't know how to build a fire, you should learn, but that's not going to get you very far. You should know how to get places. You should know how to locate information. You should know how to communicate and be aware of what happens when the lights go out, the power goes out, etc. So don't lose those skills. And then finally, beat them or join them. Beating them, develop your own AI tools. Maybe build your own models and training data sets and establish trust with your own machinery. Know how your system works. It's like building your own car or airplane or bicycle or preparing your own food at home or doing your own surgical procedures, which I do not recommend. Or you could join them. You can cross your fingers and hope for the best. You can join the crowd of people who proudly declare that they don't write emails anymore. They let the AI do it for them. And we know they're doing that because the AI does not know how to write emails really well. And we know when they switch back to writing emails because now they've forgotten and they don't even know what we were talking about. There may be a third choice, not sure. Do you eschew all technology and write a manifesto? And now let's not even go there. So interesting times ahead. The entire purpose of this audio program is to think, some things to think about, This is a topic that will come up again and again in various forms. Ideally, especially as we get some other production elements up and running, ideally this will be conversations held with various people in various areas. AI, I've spoken about very generally here. It will have impact on everything from food, preparation, agriculture, farming in general, but also harvesting and how our food chains function, supply chains for making things, predicting the weather. Who knows? Could be reading, writing, finding a job, working for a robot. There'll be a lot of things. Maybe your physical fitness will be handed over to AI machinery that will tell you certain things that don't make sense to you, but if you believe it, you may, who knows what the outcome will be. So there's tons of stuff to talk about here about how we as humans will interact with our AI overlords and what will happen next. I personally think what we can do about it, if we're sticking with the FFS talk theme, what does not work, what works is that, AI is coming. There's no stopping it. What doesn't work is that we, you, me, everybody, may not completely understand how it works. It becomes a complete mystery. If you find yourself unable to drive a standard transmission, you may not be ready for handing everything over to a computer and then having no idea how it works. What do we do about it? Well, learn how to drive stick, learn how to read an analog clock, learn how to dial a phone, learn how to cook over flame, or, to not use a microwave, or to not use prepared foods, or to not depend on restaurants or food delivery. So getting back to some basics, I'm not talking about living out in the forest or survival skills in the desert, although those would help too. But I think it's important to realize that diving in feet first or head first or both feet or however you want to look at it, handing everything over completely this early in the game is, I think you'll be in for disappointment. I could be wrong. I hope I am. But I think it's something to think about. And on that note, I will remind you to visit buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. I will remind you that Spotify is presently, as I'm speaking right now, the primary point of publication of this audio program. That will change. It will remain a part of the publication stream. It will ideally become a secondary so that the Spotify for Podcasters portal, from which other platforms like Amazon Music, which doesn't get this program as I speak right now, but it will, once those are all getting feeds from the Spotify origin, I will also point to the primary, which will be self-hosted. It will be a place where I can publish all the show notes in a more easily readable format, and we'll start to add some other stuff. So more engagement, more discussion. As I mentioned, we have a Discord that has been in existence for years. I just haven't been making use of it. So we should start getting more conversation going. I'd love to have more two-way, N-way conversation, communication, maybe some live. I would very much like to have some interviews across all of my projects, as I did like almost a year ago. There were more people with some time. I would like to have more interviews, but have more interaction with listeners and or viewers, questions, interactions, etc. So all those things on the to-do list. Maybe I'll just have some AI do it for me, and I'll have no idea how it works. On that note, thank you, as always, for listening, and we'll catch you later.